Good evening, everybody. My name's Tarali, and this is the Midnight Run. Tonight, I am standing on top of Dalaran in the Legion Beta. As you can see, a Legion carrier or spaceship is bombarding the city. I haven't done any of the quests, obviously, because basically this is just going to be another talent skill breakdown, but this time for the Blood DK. Now, a couple things to note about the changes to DKs in general. The DK right now has runes, 6 runes, and there's no longer a differentiation between blood runes, unholy runes, and frost runes. They're all just runes, and your abilities will consume them accordingly. I've already set up my bars, and in an effort to make this video a little bit shorter than the normal ones I've done, I'm going to focus on the talents that I picked instead of all of the talents in the entire thing. If this bothers you, or if you want me to do a full breakdown like the other ones, just put a comment down in the comment below, and I will make a longer video with a more in-depth explanation of this character's abilities. As you can see, Death Knights still look pretty badass. They're just kind of, you know, right there. He's a blood elf Death Knight right now, and so here we go. First, as always, we're going to start on the Specializations page with Blood DK. Primary stat, Strength. A dark guardian who manipulates and corrupts life energy to sustain himself in the face of an enemy onslaught. Now, of course, Heart Strike makes a return, Death Strike makes a return, Blood Boil, Death Grip, and Death and Decay are all back where they have always been. The one difference here is Marrow Rend. Now, if we go down here to my bar, I have it on my W, or my second ability on the bottom row. So, for those of you who don't keybind like I do, which I'm sure is a lot of you, Marrow Rend consumes 2 runes, you smash the target dealing a bunch of damage, and you generate 3 charges for Bone Shield. Now that's another big difference. Bone Shield is no longer an ability you just apply to yourself. It's a static, it's a fluctuating buff. You generate those shields, they help you mitigate damage whenever you take, reduces all damage you take by 20% whenever you have them, and increasing your haste by 10%. Each damaging attack you take consumes a charge and lasts 30 seconds until all charges are consumed. So, as long as you have charges, you should have the mitigation effect. So it's kind of good. When you reduce, so when you take when you take damage though, it consumes a charge in the similar way that Shaman Shields used to do that. So the idea is going to be to manage how many charges you have, and make sure that you always kind of have one up and available, and if they drop off, then you want to get a new one. You want to immediately hit Marrow Rend as best you can. Of course, Death Strike still gives you it deals a bunch of physical damage and heals you for 20% of that. The passive still gives you the shield, so on and so forth. Another ability that we have now is called Death's Caress. 1 rune, reach out with necrotic tendrils, applying a bunch of shadow damage, and applying Blood Plague. Now, Blood Plague is, as it always has been, it's a passive disease that stacks on your enemy and drains them over 24 seconds. But now, instead of applying directly or with like Frost Fever or anything like that, your 2 abilities that give people Blood Plague are Blood Boil and Death's Caress. Death's Caress is single target, Blood Boil is AoE. That's kind of how I've arranged my bars here. I have single target up here for the taunts because I always like them there, but I have AoE on the top, Heart Strike hit multiple targets, Blood Boil hits multiple targets, Gorfine's Grasp is like a group Death Knight, Dancing Rune Weapon's just a buff, and so is Vampiric Blood. But still, those are what goes up there. If I had my standard UI set up, I would have a 3rd bar, which is where the buffs and stuff would go. Now down here, of course, we have Bone Storm, which is a talent I'll get into as we go shift over to the talents. I took Bloodworms at level 56, considering you start at 55, so 56 would be your first talent point on a Death Knight. Auto attack critical strikes have a chance to summon a Bloodworm. Now the Bloodworms are really neat because they deal minor damage to the target for 15 seconds, and then they explode and give you 5% of your missing health. But you can generate a bunch of these if you crit a lot, so you might have 4 or 5 of these out in a long fight, or in a really long fight, even more. Now, if you drop below half your health, they'll automatically burst and give you all that health that they would have given you after 15 seconds. So it's a good way to just kind of sustain yourself through a long battle. At 57, I will take Rapid Decomposition. Your Death and Decay deals damage 50% more often, which means it's going to deal twice as much. basically. And while in your Death and Decay, you generate 15% more runic power. That's going to allow me to do more abilities more often, and it's going to create a nice battle flow and high DPS, or as much as I possibly can, as long as I stay in the Death and Decay. At 58, I take Ossuary. While you have at least 5 Bone Shield charges, remember I mentioned those earlier, the cost of Death Strike is reduced by 5 runic power. Now, Death Strike is this one, which heals you. So if it takes 40 instead of 45, that could be an extra cast in there that you didn't have to save up for. It's going to make you hit Death Strike a lot quicker. Additionally, your maximum runic power is increased by 10, which means instead of having 115, I will have 125, which is really good, because that's, like I said, the more runic power I can generate, which as a tank you usually generate quite a bit because you're always kind of dancing around, doing what you need to do, taking damage, doing damage. So you end up with usually no shortage of runic power. It's just going to be a matter of like managing it now. So that's why I took Ossuary. Now I took at level 60 Tombstone, which is down here. It's an instant. It consumes all your Bone Shield charges, and for each charge consumed you gain 3 runic power and absorb damage equal to 3% of your maximum health for 8 seconds. So if I have 3 Bone Shield charges, I'm going to get 9 runic power, and I'm going to absorb 9% of my maximum health for 8 seconds. It's great damage mitigation, great active, and of course it's only going to get better the more Bone Shield charges I have, which I'm already trying to maximize the amount of which I have. I would recommend that you would use this right before Merylrend comes back from being on cooldown. Or right after Tombstone, I would cast Merylrend again, because then you would have very little time in which you are not taking the reduced damage from the Bone Shield. So you take the Tombstone, you immediately give yourself the 20% reduced damage, and that amount of damage that you're absorbing from the Tombstone buff will last even longer. Now at 75, because now that we've hit 60, it's going to go 15 levels each time again until you get to 100. Tightening Grasp, reducing the cooldown of Gorfine's Grasp by 60 seconds, and your Death and Decay also reduces the movement speed of remaining enemies within its radius by 70%. Now Gorfine's Grasp is really kind of a neat spell because it allows you to grab a whole bunch of enemies at once. And at 3 minutes cooldown, you might not use it as much. Reducing it to 2 minutes is not a huge benefit in that regard. It's only 33% reduction, which is decent. But I think really I took this because the other two really didn't look that much better to me. So it's, this one gives the people in your Death and Decay a chance to cower for 3 seconds, but that doesn't really do much for me. And Wraith Walk, which is a new ability. You sidestep into the shadow, breaking root effects and increasing your movement speed by 70% for 3 seconds. During this time, all movement impairing effects are suppressed, but any action will cancel the effect. So basically, it allows you to move, but you can't do anything, and you kind of avoid roots. I don't find that very useful, and of course, there always is the chance of there being a raid encounter where this becomes the most important thing that you need to do, because you might need to have trouble getting back to a boss after being rooted or slowed or stunned or something like that. But I find, for me, not really worth it. Now, at level 90, we go Will of the Necropolis. Damage taken below 35% health is automatically reduced by 20%. That's great. That means that in a fight where I'm struggling to maintain my health bar in my own, and I'm forcing a lot of healing out of the healer, if I drop below 35% health, it's going to become 20% easier for him to heal me. So it's going to be a good fluctuation of, I can at least help you heal me better when I'm really low. And I find that that's because I've played a healer as well, and as playing a tank, and I find that when somebody gets low and you're healing them, that it doesn't really seem like it's making a difference because they're taking so much damage. It can be really tough to kind of overcome that hurdle. With this, I'd like to give my healer a little bit better, and I would like my tank to have this ability, because I'm going to be able to, like, okay, if he gets down to 35%, I'll be able to hit him with a really good heal, and that damage won't immediately go away, which might turn around the fight for me and allow me to get back in the game of healing him back to full while still maintaining, like, the other raid members without having them all die or having him die specifically. So I find that it's going to be the best one to go with. And it's also a passive, which everyone knows I love the passive, so I don't want to hit any extra buttons. I already have enough buttons as the Death Knight, which seems to be actually more buttons than I have on other classes. It definitely seems like the other classes have maybe 5 to 10 abilities with maybe a couple of a couple of situational buffs. Oh, looks like I just got disconnected from the server. Probably from being AFK, because I haven't really done much except for look at the screen. I'm not sure. But it is beta, so we'll see. We'll get right back in here. Up on top of the tower. There we are. We're back. Okay, sorry about that real quick. No big deal. We will open up the talents menu again. Go back here. So, yeah, I don't want to hit the extra buttons, so it's fine. I'd rather take that over the other ones. Now, at level 100, you get your main, kind of a ability, and I took Bone Storm. Now, I like the name of Bone Storm because it reminds me of Lord Marrogar from Icecrown Citadel. Make sure you check out that video, by the way. It's in the videos already. The part 1's already up. The rest of the parts will be going up sometime this week, I believe. So, just make sure you check that guys out. Give them a like. We do some transmog runs. Just have a little fun. They're quick and short and easy to get through. But Bone Storm, it's got a flexible cost. It consumes between 10 and 100 runic power. Now, what it does, it's only got a minute cooldown, so that's really short for this kind of ability. So it's a whirl of bone and gore spatters nearby enemies every 1 second, dealing a bunch of shadow damage every 1 second and healing you for 1% of your maximum health every time it deals damage. Lasts 1 second per 10 runic power spent. So at most, this is going to last for 10 seconds, which means that after it's over in 10 seconds, you're going to be able to use it again in 50 seconds. By that time, you should be able to generate the 100 runic power needed. Now, I took this one in a kind of... It's kind of like not a counter, but like a companion to Tombstone. So I'm either going to Tombstone or I'm going to end up Bone Storming. Like, if the fight is really going in my way, Bone Storm's probably going to be the one that I hit. If I'm having a little trouble, Tombstone's going to be the one that I hit. So it gives me a little bit of that give and take. Like, do I want to take less damage? Do I want to deal more damage? I can utilize my runic power however I want in a way that best fits the situation. So I really like that. Plus the other two really didn't seem like something I would use that much. But that's basically it. So that's your basic talent guide for a level 100 Death Knight, getting fresh ready to go to the Echo Isles to meet the Legion head on. And that's pretty much it. I mean, like I said, if you want a more in-depth thing where I go through every single talent choice, I will definitely make that video for you. But you gotta tell me what you want. Just tell me what you want, and I will give it to you, I promise. Alright? I've been Tarali. This has been the Midnight Run, my Death Knight. Make sure that you give me your comments because the Legion's just starting. Legion has just begun. So I may be doing this wrong. I may be doing it 100% right. Maybe I'm doing it a way that nobody's thought of before. Who knows? But I won't know unless you tell me. So tell me what your comments are. Give me your thoughts. Give me your feedback. I crave it. And we will definitely come to more videos of these in the future. When Legion launches proper on August 30th, I will start making some more gameplay videos as far as like storyline and quests and that sort of thing. And we're going to see a lot of gameplay. I'm going to show you some instances and some dungeons, some raids, and everything I possibly can. Rumsy Rum will be in on those videos too. Until then, make sure you check out all the other stuff we got going on the channel, including streaming, which I'm starting up pretty soon on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Tarali. Not very difficult. And keep an eye out for that as well. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.